Hey guys, it's Brian from the SEO Optimist, and I received a comment recently asking for a video talking about some of the premium features that you see in a lot of the popular SEO plugins, be it Yoast or the SEO framework, etc. Which of them I recommend and all that. Actually, this may be contrary to what some viewers expected me to say, but in a lot of cases, I don't actually bother myself using any of these premium features. And I don't say that to hate on any of the plugins or anything like that. I have a lot of respect for the people who make Yoast, the SEO framework, all in one, etc., all the big dogs. So I would never actively discourage somebody from using those premium features out of dislike for the plugins or the people behind them. And I realize doing what I do that I make my living often using these plugins, so in a way it's a shame not to support them by paying for premium features. On the other hand, a lot of my clients are small businesses with limited budgets, and so they have to spend wisely, and therefore I have to spend wisely on what I do when I work with them and the recommendations that I make for them. So I just often am in a position where if we can get something done without having to pay for it unnecessarily, then I never recommend paying for it. But to go further than just saying that, let me dig into why. So I have up here on the screen the page that Yoast gives you for their premium features. They compare what you get with premium versus Yoast free. One of the big things they talk about is that you can track up to 5 keywords that you're optimizing a page for at once instead of only one. Well, I'll stop it right there. As you've probably heard me say in other videos, personally, I don't find Yoast's recommendation tool very useful. It's great for beginners when there's a lot to keep in mind, forgetting little things here or there like alt tags or something else, and it's nice to have a reminder to do those things. But once you get experienced at doing SEO, you don't need something like that telling you things that you already know. And it's often wrong. I've had early experiences with if you start a blog post with a picture, it will erroneously consider that the first paragraph, and so it'll start flagging you for you didn't use the keyword in the first paragraph. And there's a host of little mistakes that it makes like that all the time that'll give you an erroneous score, basically, of how well you've optimized. And I'm actually a little surprised that it still talks keyword density. I mean, it's a good general guide, but most SEO people will tell you these days exact keyword density is a thing of the past, and that's still one of the things it grades you for in there too. So I just don't find it useful. So to me, saying, yeah, but this feature that you already don't use, I'll give you more keywords that you can track, I don't care. Preview of your page to see how it will look on Google, Facebook, and Twitter. I mean, I guess in a perfect world that's a little useful, so I could see a preview of when someone shares this, how it's going to look. But if you've shared things enough times, you have a pretty good idea when you set a featured image for the post how that's going to play out with your meta title and whatnot. To me, that's not worth paying for. I mean, I'm not saying that to be ugly to Yoast or anything, just me as a personal preference. I don't consider that very valuable. Readability check. The free version does give you some tips on if you're using too many big words, if you're using sentences that are too long or convoluted, and it gives you the Fleisch reader score. That is kind of useful for some people, but I think that the one provided in the free version is adequate enough. I, again, wouldn't bother with a lot of people telling them to pay for that. Really, in my opinion, if you're having a problem with your writing on a frequent enough basis that you find you really need even more advanced software to help you write better, you just need to learn to write better. And the answer, as far as I'm concerned, would be spend some time on websites like Copyblogger or other places that give you tips on actually structuring your writing better, parsing your paragraphs better, how to introduce content, how to that. Your time and money is better spent learning how to do it better than just writing the way you always write and then having software yell at you and give you vague suggestions of how you can fix it. that I don't, and as a professional writer myself, I'm not saying I'm flawless. We all make mistakes. I edit everything that I write, but that's not very useful for me either. And a lot of the SEO clients I work with, they want me to write their content. So you can't even say, well, they're not professionals, so maybe they would find help with writing useful. In their case, they're not doing the writing, so it still falls to me. And people I coach, yeah, they're doing the writing. But again, part of my coaching, if I noticed they were not a strong writer, would be to just help them be a better writer. And then needing that software would be less useful. Full control over your breadcrumbs, yeah, but I think that really more comes down to web design. If you're using plugins, or themes like Divi, or just looking into the way that the developer is putting the site together, a lot of those kinds of settings are handled at that end. So I wouldn't really look necessarily to the SEO guy or the SEO plugin to be handling that at an advanced level, that crucial anyway. And then switching over to the SEO framework, they talk about their monitor, which helps keep track of uptime on the site, when people were there and how long, and things like that. When there's conflicts between plugins that are causing issues. But I'll say a couple things on conflicts. It does happen in WordPress, and it's something to pay attention to. But I haven't had conflicts that really posed big issues with a website happen very often, and I've been working with WordPress for many years. It's just not a common thing, especially if I know a lot of developers will use Divi or one of the other big popular builders over and over again on every site they do, and then you're using a lot of the same SEO plugins and a lot of the same make this contact form or make some other plugin. So it's not really often that they're integrating new plugins that they don't know will play well with the other things they're using, which is another reason that just doesn't happen that often. And so paying for a feature to monitor for when that happens, it's not that useful, especially when, in my experience, when the conflicts have happened, it's been pretty straightforward to troubleshoot that manually and not worry about it. So I don't see a lot of value in that. Focus. This is going to be a lot of the same points I made for Yoast. This helps you write targeted content. It gives you some suggestions. I actually like the SEO framework, as I said in a previous video, because the base version does not have this functionality like Yoast does. I feel that makes the plugin lighter weight. It loads faster. I don't need all of that extra fluff. For beginners, it's nice, but since Yoast has some of this functionality in its free version, if I were dealing with a beginner that needed that kind of guidance, I would just recommend that they use the free version of Yoast instead of having to pay for this if their budget is limited. And so, I hate to keep putting down all these pay plugins because I love the developers that build these plugins, and I would love to support them, and the easiest way to do that is to pay for their premium plugins. But if my first priority is to the user that I'm trying to help, my honest opinion is this is not useful enough to warrant the pricing, which we'll look at in a second for some of these. Local SEO is probably the most useful of any of these premium extensions that we're going to talk about in this video. Schema data is a little tricky to get to learn. Not everybody wants to delve into HTML to that extent to manually wrap address information and things like that. So having a plugin that handles a lot of that for you is legit useful. This is probably the only extension that I've looked at so far in this video that I think would be helpful for me, even though I know how to do it manually, and would certainly be helpful for a beginner trying to do this themselves. But when you look at the pricing here, for one site, it's not bad. $59 a year. If you're doing this for your own site and you want to get like the geolocating and schema data type plugin support, that's useful. It's not a huge fee. But the next step up to manage 5 sites and then 10 sites, for someone like myself where you're getting into 10, 20 sites, that's $300 to $400 a year. It's not a ton of money when you have that many clients, But like I said, if you just don't find the features that you're getting necessary, $400 for very little reason is a lot of money. And I would then, because that's another tool that I have to pay for, now I would have to pass that cost onto my clients and raise my rates a bit. And I'm already often dealing with small businesses that don't have big budgets, and I'm always playing the game of let's do more with less. So this just does not fit with that aim, which is why I don't end up using a lot of these. It's very, very simple if you're competent enough with HTML code to do your own schema data on top of the schema assistance that all of these SEO plugins that are free come with out of the box. You know, that functionality plus learning a little on top of it, you can accomplish all of this manually. If you already use Google Analytics and stuff, you already have a lot of insight into what goes on your site. Dollars to donuts, you're probably not, if you're using well-known plugins and well-known builder frameworks, you're probably not running into a lot of plugin issues. And so for the beginner, this just wouldn't be where I would start, to be honest. I hope this video was helpful. And if you have more questions or you want me to delve into anything else, definitely feel free to let me know, and I'll be happy to do it. Thanks, guys. Catch you next video.